Over 8 years since the original hit shelves, Rockstar have spent close to a decade perfecting Red Dead Redemption 2, putting an immense amount of detail into every area to make for one of the most dense open-world games of all time. Whether or not that extreme dedication to polishing the fine edges was worth the end result is open for debate, especially with the shadow hanging overhead of just how many hours were required to get the damn thing done. But the team's time and dedication has undoubtedly resulted in one of the most lifelike, intricately detailed games ever. We've covered some of the most pointless yet amazing touches Rockstar included in the final release before it actually came out, but it turns out they were just the tip of the iceberg. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and this is Red Dead Redemption 2, 12 more pointless details that'll blow your mind. Number 12. Pigs will eat dead enemies. Look, we all know that sometimes killing an enemy just isn't enough. You can come across plenty of reprehensible bad guys over the course of Rockstar's new game, some of which don't deserve an easy execution or to be dispatched in the same way as hundreds of other enemies before them. Sure, you could whack them with an up-close and personal shotgun blast to the face so they'll never be allowed an open-cast funeral, or you could let nature take its course. If you choose the latter option, it turns out that pigs, just like in real life, aren't averse to chomping down on some fresh, juicy corpses. Throw a body into one of their troughs and you can watch as a pig, or an entire family of them trying to bond together, start chewing through to the bone. For as filthy as they are, pigs are pretty innocent and kind animals in Red Dead 2, but you won't look at them the same way again after seeing them just go to town on someone you just shot in the face. Number 11. Mirror interaction. Although it's already ridiculously satisfying that mirrors in the world of Red Dead Redemption 2 actually work, seriously, why do so many games still struggle with bringing this aspect to life? There's actually a secret prompt that lets Arthur make a few comments at his reflection, Duke Nukem style. If you hold down L2 and circle, or the console equivalent, Arthur will give you a little insight into what he thinks of himself, and it ain't pretty.
You ugly bastard.
For the most part, he'll lament how old he's getting and how ugly he is, and why it's no wonder that everyone eventually leaves him. Unfortunately, his spirits don't seem to pick up even if you get him kitted out in a dashing suit and give him a bit of a wash. It surprisingly humanizes the character in a way though. I mean, who hasn't looked in the mirror on an off day and felt a little grim? I mean, it's practically my entire life. Number 10. NPC'S stop urinating if you stand next to them. It's already been revealed just how much attention to detail Rockstar put into the genitalia in Red Dead Redemption 2. Horseballs shrink when they get cold, for instance, a single detail that justifies the entire 8 years worth of development time in my opinion. However, you can also find people out in the wild, mostly farmers, relieving themselves in a nearby bush or stream where you absolutely wash your face. While I haven't gotten close enough, surprisingly, to check whether or not the developers rendered fully detailed dick and bollocks, they did put in enough detail to make sure NPCs react realistically whilst taking a tinkle. Should players get a little too inquisitive and stand right next to someone trying to urinate in peace, they rightfully get a little bit pissed off, no pun intended, give you a stern word, zip up, and storm away. Number 9. Bullet holes remain in hats. Rockstar expected players to get attached to the characters, animals, and places inside their version of the Wild West, be it Arthur Morgan himself or the many steeds you can bond with, but they probably had no idea how protective fans would be over their hats. When the bullets start flying, there's a good chance you won't come out of a battle with your hat intact, leading players to search the battlefield for their fallen comrade. While that detail is itself neat, the developers made sure that not only can you find and re-equip the piece of headwear, but it will also retain the damage it took during the shootout. If it's shot off, then the hat will have a bullet hole in both gameplay and cutscenes. You can fix it, by equipping a new one from the wardrobe or outright buying one from the general store, but until then it will be marked by bullets that very narrowly missed your own noggin. Number 8. Railroads and houses are built over time. One of the biggest themes of Red Dead Redemption 2, like the original, is just how much the world of outlaws and cowboys is changing, with the Industrial Revolution and civilization completely restructuring the land and its culture. The story does a great job of communicating this in pretty devastating ways, for instance, the first time you arrive in Saint Denis, but the change also occurs before your very eyes in gameplay. Throughout the title, you can find little pockets of contractors attempting to build new villages as well as railways, all of which can finish construction as the game goes on. Some are directly impacted by you, for instance if you provide a certain company with the lumber they need, but others happen naturally whether or not you directly come into contact with them. Railways especially pop up all over the damn place, transforming the peaceful countryside of the West with the apocalyptic hum of the modern age. Number 7. Arthur's dialogue changes depending on distance. Insomniac's Spider-Man blew everyone away with a subtle yet impactful little detail back in September, when it turned out that the devs had actually recorded a lot of the dialogue twice so that Spidey would sound exerted if he was speaking while swinging or in combat, and normal when he was milling around on rooftops or doing whatever a spider does in his spare time. I don't know. Red Dead Redemption 2 boasts a similar feature, with Arthur's lines also being recorded twice. Consequently, he either speaks normally or shouts depending on how far away he is from someone, making the conversation feel more natural as you move around the world.
Ask him if he's seen John! Hey, have you seen John?
It's probably something you didn't even clock while you were playing, but that's kinda the whole point, to make this dialogue appear to be as organic and as realistic as possible. Number 6. Bucks can get tangled after a fight. The wildlife in Red Dead Redemption 2 works on its own isolated ecosystem, whether or not you come along and start hunting or, let's face it, ram animals off the road with your horse or not, meaning that they can get involved in their own tussles that can be observed through your binoculars. That can lead to situations in the north where a pack of wolves end up in a fight to the death with a bear, but more often than not, it'll probably be a white-tailed buck getting into a scrap with another of its own kind. This system is ridiculously complex as is, but the deer take this one step further, as they can get their antlers tangled together after a fight. Consequently, you can stumble across the victor trying, and mostly failing, to escape its entanglement with a decaying corpse. In my opinion, you're better off just putting it out of its misery. Number 5. Shopkeepers come to work with injuries. Shopkeepers have it pretty tough in Red Dead Redemption 2. Not only do they have to come to work every single day, but they've got to deal with outlaws holding a gun to their face every 5 minutes and roughing them up as well. Hell, the player themselves can do this whenever they want, even putting a bullet in these humble merchants if they feel like it. If you do though, they often won't outright die, but instead return afterwards wearing their wounds. Whack them in the head, well, they'll come back wearing a bandage all over it. Shoot them in the side, they'll have one there too. It's probably to make you think twice before causing more pain and continuing your crime spree, but for the most malicious out there, it's a good reminder of the damage you can cause whilst out on the lam. Number 4. Horses poop more if you overfeed them. As mentioned previously, everyone lost their damn minds when they found out that horse testicles shrink in the cold in Red Dead 2. But Rockstar's dedication to making the virtual animals as real as possible didn't stop there. Like in real life, they need to digest their food, and consequently, if they're just chilling, they're likely to poop on the ground. I mean, fair enough, if a horse has to go, a horse has to go. While other games, including Metal Gear Solid 5, included the same feature, Rockstar, as always, have taken this one step further. The rate of a horse's bowel movements is dictated by how much you feed them. As you can imagine, a malnourished horse barely ever has to go, while an overfed one will be dropping deuces like it's nobody's business. Number 3. You can drown people in inches of water. Even though there are fully formed stealth mechanics, it's actually quite difficult to not kill people in Red Dead 2. Even if you get into a fist fight and try to knock someone out, 9 times out of 10 they'll end up with their skulls cracked in on the floor and bleeding out. However, if you do manage to take someone out without killing them, there's also a good chance that the elements will finish them off for you. While you can drown people in the game, for instance, be it by tying them up and throwing them into an alligator-infested swamp, although the jury is out on whether or not the water or the beast will kill them first, it only takes mere inches of water to get the job done. Whether you're dragging someone from your horse through a small ravine or just knock someone out in a puddle, if they're left for too long, they will drown in perhaps the most horrible way ever. Number 2. Opossums play dead if you're near. Opossums are crafty little animals that you can hunt in Red Dead 2, and they're surprisingly difficult to find and keep track of. What makes them even more tough to spot and kill though, is that they can actually play dead if they notice you in advance. You might see one suddenly fall limp, yet you won't get a prompt to pick it up or skin it. At first glance, it initially looks like the game is just bugged out, but it's actually part of the animal's behavior to drop down and play dead in order to fool you and hopefully go on to survive another day. In real life, that might fool you, but in the game you still get a red reticule to let you know that you're free to fire away. Number 1. A horse's ears signifies its mood. Look, this entire list could have been taken up by the sheer amount of insane detail Rockstar put in to creating the most lifelike horses to ever grace a video game. A good chunk of that 8-year dev time has to have been dedicated entirely to figuring out the intricacies of how these magnificent beasts work, attempting to reflect their real-life behavior as much as possible. The craziest detail, however, which again is entirely based on a real-life feature of the animals, is how you can tell their temperament just by looking at their ears. If their ears are stood upright in their natural position, the horse is at ease, but if they're down, they're pissed off and will totally send you flying if you try to go near them. It's something you almost certainly didn't pay attention to unless you're into horses in real life. Nope, not that way, Jules, but now you can only blame yourself the next time one gives you a kick to the chest. So that's our list. I want to know down in the comments below how many of these details you came across yourself in the game and which ones we missed here, because there's goddamn bucket loads of them. And while you're there, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to WhatCulture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't know, I've been Josh, you've been watching WhatCulture, and I'll see you soon. Bye.